This is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you. I'm here at the trade show, and every year at the trade show I give a demonstration talk about some of the products that will allow you to live healthier. I'm here at the TriBest booth, and we're at the TriBest's Raw and Living Food Extravaganza, and this is lectures, demonstrations, and book signings on raw, living, and natural foods. And I'm here right here, March 10th at 12 noon. And so that's coming up really soon, and what I'll be sharing with you today is the Green Star Juicer. Now, we all know the Green Star Juicer is great for juicing leafy greens and other hard vegetables, but it also does a lot more. So what I'll be showing you in just a minute is how to make juice in the Green Star, but also how to make one of my favorite treats, macadamia nut date rolls. So let's go to that clip next. Hello and welcome. My name is John Kohler, and I'll be doing a demonstration today of the Green Star Elite Juicer from TriBest. Now, the Green Star Elite Juicer is a slow-running juicer that's going to preserve more of the nutrition in the juice than high-speed juicers that run at 3,600 or even 10,000 RPMs. This one runs at a little bit over 100 RPMs or revolutions per minute. This uses a gearing system, much like the transmission in a car. The gears literally grind and press and squeeze out in 3 stages. This is the only 3-stage juicer on the market. In 3 stages, will produce some of the finest and highest quality juice around. And this machine will juice a variety of different fruits and vegetables. What I'd like to do first is just show you how easy it is to assemble and disassemble and all the parts that's included. This is the main body right here. I like that this machine has a removable plug. This is the standard plug that's on most computers, actually, on PCs. Yeah. So you could, you'll never lose it. It's really easy, and it comes apart. So if you want to store it or whatnot. In addition, you have the main juicer body. Now, this juicer is actually fairly heavy. I make it look light because I'm pretty strong, but this thing's probably pushing, 20 pounds, 25 pounds right here. Solid motor in there. Besides, the motor itself is the main juicing parts, and this is where all the magic happens. This is where the produce is turned from hard fibrous carrots into separates it into the liquid juice that's going to feed and nourish your body, and the pulp that's really not digestible by humans. I mean, it just goes in one end and the fiber comes out the other, and it's definitely good as roughage, and we do need roughage, but in the case of carrots, I prefer to juice them to get all the nutrition out. We're going to get a much higher levels of absorption of some of the carotenoids and the other nutrients when they're broken down in their smallest form. So as we know, cooking will break down the carrots, but juicing will also take away all the fiber and break it down into small particle sizes so our bodies could much better absorb them. And you could do that in the TriBest Green Star Elite Juicer. Let's go ahead and pull this off. This is just a housing cover, and this machine does have a built-in safety interlock, so it does need to be properly assembled so that you can use it. If it's not properly assembled, it's not going to turn on as a safety feature. After you take the cover off, it's very simple. There's 2 simple clips, 2 snaps that you just snap right here, 1 and 2, and now you could easily disassemble the machine. And this machine was developed very well. You could pull this apart. This is the pulp outlet casing, and this has a little spring on it. So you turn this off, and what happens is you get a tensioner. Now, what the job of this tensioner is to do is to keep the pulp in the machine to get the most extraction. It keeps the pulp in the machine until it's literally wrung dry, like you're wringing your laundry dry. This ensures that you get the highest level of juice. Other machines on the market may just kick out the pulp when it's actually still wet. This does a very effective job to get the most out of the produce that you're buying. And I always encourage people to buy the organic produce that's not going to have the toxins in there. And as we know, organic produce can be expensive, so why not get the most juice out of your organic produce? In addition, the machine has a nice fine hole screen. So this fine hole screen is very important. The smaller the screen holes, the finer your juice texture, so the less pulp you'll get with the Green Star Elite Juicer. But if you want more pulp, that's not a problem, because they also have a screen with larger holes. So say you're juicing fruits, you may want to use the screen with larger holes. Say you like pulp in your juice, you want to use the screen with larger holes. And it doesn't end there. This machine is also very versatile. What I'll be showing you guys first is how it juices really well. Then we're going to show you how you could also make healthy lifestyle changes with the Green Star Elite juicer by making things like desserts. So for example, we're gonna make something really good. It's my favorite macadamia nut date rolls. So you know, you could buy some of the bars here, but you could very easily make these at home, and instead of eating a dessert of cookies, you could eat macadamia nuts and dates. And that's actually quite delicious. They also have some other screens that allow you to do the nut patés, the nut butters, the date rolls that we're gonna do in just a second. But the heart of this machine right here are the two gears here. These gears are specially designed. They have what's called a pocket recess right here, a little cutout in there. I don't know if you can see that, but what this does, it helps cut up things like long stringy fibers like celery and other things that other machines have. Now this is the only juicer that has these little teeth here to help cut up the strings so that it's gonna chop it up and you're gonna get a better extraction. Also, this is a 3-stage machine, as I did mention earlier. The first stage is as you put the produce in, it's literally crushed between these two gears. Then you see it works its way down these gears into this little area here. And this is the mixing section. This is a very important section. This was developed after Norman Walker, or the Norwalk juicer. The Norwalk juicer that many people may be familiar with. It's a $2,500 juicer. It's a great juicer. Besides being expensive, it does take some time to use. On step number 1, you basically grind up your produce, and that's what these gears do here. Step number 2 on the Norwalk, which is not often mentioned, is that once you grind everything, you need to have everything sit around and congeal for a while. And, you know, kind of, lack of a better word, ferment, and it's not for long, but that Norman Walker found really gets more nutrients out of the juice. And that's what this mixing section does on this machine. The final section is what the Norwalk juicer does, is the pressing stage. So these final end of the auger on the Green Star Elite is the pressing stage, which presses out the juice. And that's how the gears work. And then finally, you just have the housing, which just goes on, and you feed everything into the machine as well. And this has a nice 1.5 inch diameter square feed chute. So the 1.5 diameter square feed chute has a lot more area than a 1.5 diameter circular feed chute on some other machines. So the main thing when assembling this machine that's very important, is most critical, is that on the gears here, there's 2 dots on one gear and 1 dot on the other, and you need to just line them up into a triangle shape. You can't just haphazardly take the gears and put them together. It's not going to match up, and you may cause damage to the machine and also the gears. So you need to pay attention, and each and every time assemble the machine properly just by lining them up. It's very simple, very easy. Then you're going to take the 2 gears and push them right in the machine. Once they go in, then you get to select the screen. If you want more pulp, you could use a larger hole screen. If you don't, we're going to use a small hole screen. I generally recommend using the small hole screen when juicing your vegetables, and the larger hole screen when juicing your fruits. Next, we put the pulp casing on with our knob, and since we are juicing hard fibrous vegetables like the carrots, we want to make sure this knob is screwed in all the way tight. That's going to allow the most pressure on the pulp to ensure that we're going to get the driest pulp, which means more juice. We then put that on, and then we're just going to snap this closed. So as you can see, it's really simple to take apart, disassemble, and assemble, and there's not too many parts to clean. Next, we're going to go ahead and put the top on, and we can turn it on, and we're all ready to juice. Now with the machine, you're going to get 2 pushers. You're going to get a plastic pusher and also the wooden pusher. And if you are using a plastic pusher, you could use that just like that. It's very simple, very easy, but I actually prefer the wooden pusher. Now you may think with a plastic pusher, you do have this little lip here that only lets the pusher go down to a certain length so that you won't grind up the plastic in your juice. Now with the wooden pusher, I find I get a little bit better leverage, but the wood will hit the gears. You can hear that there. And that's fine. This is like a wood like you would use out of a cutting board, and the fiber is just going to go through and come into the pulp. So I much prefer the wooden pusher. I guess the next step is we can just start feeding in produce. I mean, you literally just take some carrots in and push it in with a pusher. And it's fairly easy to push. It does take a little bit of strength to push it in, but we want to get exercise in our daily routines. Nowadays, everybody's sitting behind computers, and this will actually build up your wrists. And if you are a little bit, older and aren't quite as tall, you could stand on a little stool and get better leverage, and that'll help you, push more easily into the machine. But it's fairly simple.
Put it on the kitchen table.
Yeah, put it on the kitchen table. It's a little bit lower than your countertops. But one of the amazing features of the Green Star Leaf Juicer is taking leafy greens. Leafy greens are the #1 item we should be juicing, and many juicers in the market do not handle leafy greens that effectively. Some juicers make you chop up the leafy greens. Some juicers you'll put in leafy greens, and you'll see full chunks of leafy greens coming out with not a lot of juice. On the Green Star Leaf Juicer, this is my favorite part. You literally take a leafy green, you put it in right between the gears, and you don't have to do anything, and it'll literally suck it right in, and it juices it right up. Leafy greens, by far the #1 most nutrient-dense food on the planet. At Whole Foods, they're using the ANDI score. ANDI stands for Aggregate Nutrient Density Index. It was an index created by Dr. Joel Fuhrman that talks about, the foods that have the most nutrients per calorie. A lot of foods, especially many sold here, are high in calories but low in nutrients. We want to eat nutrient-dense foods that are high in nutrients but low in calories. In America, I believe that most people are eating too many calories but not getting enough nutrients, and that's where the leafy greens come in. This machine will literally break up these leafy greens into a juice, and they'll be in one of the most assimilatable forms so you can get those nutrients into you. Cilantro or parsley or wheatgrass. Once again, the twin gear machine, this is called the Green Star Juicer, so it's really good with all the greens. And while it will juice wheatgrass, if you want to juice a lot of wheatgrass, I would recommend the Solo Star 2 machine, which is a single auger style machine, which will juice wheatgrass a bit more effectively than this one. This is a good, well-rounded machine for greens and a lot of vegetables and a lot of other things. I mean, I really like how it just does these leafy greens. It literally just sucks them in. No pre-cutting, no pre-chopping is required. In addition, you could also juice things like celery. Recommend celery highly. It's rich in electrolytes. And you could easily push that in. Oh yeah, and actually here's a few sprigs of cilantro right there. Sucks them right in, really nice, really easy. Let's see, another thing that's really popular to do is ginger. So this machine works amazing on ginger. Now you want to remember, a little bit of ginger goes a long way in your juice. You don't want to juice this whole thing thinking you're a man. It actually might grow hair on your chest if you drink this whole thing, but that's really strong. But yeah, good with lemon, but just a little piece. Actually, this whole juice is going to have a nice ginger flavor. On the lemons, what I like to do is I'll juice the lemons, the skin and all. Most of the nutrition in the lemons and other citrus fruits are actually in the rind, the white rind area. That's where the bioflavonoids are. And if you're juicing lemons or limes, you could juice the skin and all, it's not a problem. But if you're juicing oranges, tangerines, or grapefruits, there are indigestible chemicals in the skin that we don't want to consume. It'll give you bad gas, flatulence, and burping. Not too good. And actually, they use an extract of that orange oil for ant control, as a natural ant control that you can use, around your food in the home. So yeah, don't juice that stuff.
Make sure it's organic.
Right. Yeah, and I always recommend, once again, juicing organic, especially if you're juicing your skins and peels of things. I mean, that's where the most nutrients are. I don't recommend actually even peeling your carrots, but get them organic so you're not going to have the chemicals in there. Also, a lot of juices, especially the green vegetable juices, I always like to add apple. Apples or pears add a nice flavor and sweetness to the vegetable juices, because for many people, they just can't stomach straight greens. And I'd always recommend, making a green juice with some leafy greens, but also other greens. I would consider celery greens, cucumber greens, and those, and iceberg lettuce and romaine greens are good to dilute most of your juice and make most of your juice out of something more mild than, something more kind of hard like kale, unless you're experts. So once again, if we just cut up these apples so that they'll fit in the machine, you can easily push these into the machine. Real simple, real easy.
Why did you choose to strain it?
So yeah, so on the machine they include a nice stainless steel strainer, and you could choose to use the strainer or not. If you want more pulp in the juice, you don't use the strainer, and if you want less pulp, you could use the strainer. I find many people like the nice clean texture of a nice strained juice. and some people don't. I like it when it's actually the pulp's taken out. But you know, there's pros and cons to everything. I have seen some studies that show if you have more pulp in the juice will last longer, and some of the fibers actually keep the juice fresher. But in addition, with this machine, unlike other high-speed machines, they've done stability studies. So they have a 72-hour stability study that in this machine, if you juice, you can keep this juice for 72 hours with minimal nutrient degradation. You know, I don't recommend storing your juices ever. I always recommend for highest benefit to drink the juice right after you make it. But if you do want to store your juice, this would be the machine I would definitely recommend. You know, and it's always think good, better, best. If you're going to work in the day and you know, instead of grabbing the coffee or soda or even bottled juice from, you know, the cooler at work, it's definitely better to take your juice that's maybe not drunk right after because you made it the night before. You know, much, much healthier. So that was just really easy to juice this stuff. And sometimes what I like to do, you know, on the stuff that didn't get strained out, you can actually pour it right back through the machine. And then we'll put this funnel back down there. And now when you do this, I like to just put it in with a carrot. That'll help give the machine the hard fiber it needs to, you know, push everything, the fiber and the juice through the machine. And you could see, I mean, you could pick up this pulp. This is some of the driest pulp on any juicer, maybe aside from a Norwalk that costs $2,500. So you're literally going to get, you know, all the juice out of the organic fruits and vegetables that you're buying. I mean, I can't even squeeze any juice out of that, and try that on some other juicers here at the expo today, and I'm assured you'll be able to squeeze some juice out. So really simple and easy to juice in the Green Star Elite, and that should be your #1 use of the juicer. But what I'm going to show you next is some other features that you can do to make the positive, healthy lifestyle changes that you all want to do. And I will sample a few of these, a little bit of this juice out for you guys. And I'll have an assistant over here pour that out for you guys. Well, I very quickly change out this setup so that we can process actually one of my favorite foods, the dates and macadamia nuts. So I like macadamia nuts a lot. They're one of my favorite nuts. They do have some levels of fat in them, but you know, it's a healthy fat. But that being said, we don't want to overeat any type of fat, in my opinion. Now we're just going to put this whole new set on. Once again, we got our piece there. We're going to put our 2 gears in there, once again, making sure we line up the dots. Now we're going to put in what's called a blank plate. This is a blank plate versus the juicing screen, as this doesn't have any holes. What this does is that this allows the twin gears to mash up everything and just send it right through the machine. So that it's also often called the homogenizing plate. You could grind up your nut butters, your macadamia nut butters, and other raw nuts, depending on the nut and the oil content of the nut. If you run through raw almonds through this machine that are dry, unless they're roasted, you're probably gonna get an almond flour, because the oils in the nuts when it's ground is what makes the nuts stick together. So with roasted peanuts, it has very high oil content, and that will stick the nuts together, so you'll make a nice peanut butter. So we're gonna go ahead and put this in there. And this part is often used for what's called banana ice cream in the living and raw foods movement. And what banana ice cream is, it's 100% bananas, there's no cream added. But what this machine allows you to do is put frozen bananas through it, just mushes up all the bananas into a nice texture, and then you can eat it, and it tastes just like ice cream. It has an amazingly nice texture and flavor, but you gotta make sure you get ripe bananas that are nice and sweet. Next, we're gonna put this piece on, and instead of putting the piece with the little spring that keeps tension on, we wanna let everything that we put in here grind up to come out. So they have this piece here that just has a straight through that's gonna let everything that gets ground up come straight out. And we're gonna screw that in. So many of the parts that I'm showing here today come with the machine. They do have a few optional parts that you may have to buy separately. So we're all assembled and we're ready to go. We're gonna take equal parts of macadamia nuts to the dates and just feed them through. So maybe I'll take a few macadamia nuts and 1 date and drop it through. and we'll push that in. Take a few more macadamia nuts and another date, push that through. Now this is processing at a really low RPM, about 125 RPMs. You know, many other ways you would process this would maybe be in your food processor in the kitchen, but that runs at a much higher RPM. So the lower the RPM, the higher the nutrients are, you know, kept in the machine. There's really virtually no heat involved in this process either. So I'm using dates and macadamia nuts today. You could easily use almonds and dates, or you could use almonds and raisins, basically any nuts, fruit, and you're gonna get a fruit nut dessert, and it's actually quite delicious. You could play with all the different kinds. I like walnuts, they happen to be high in omega-3 fatty acids. You could use some mulberries. How many people have had dried mulberries? They're absolutely amazing. You could do like dried mulberry and walnuts. So many different combinations. You know, when you have the machine to do your own processing, you could make whatever you'd like, and you'll probably come up with new recipes. But as you can see, this is just really simple, real easy. I mean, just feeding everything through and it's just coming out. Looks like some of these pieces I'm not quite getting a lot of dates in there. This looks like a nice macadamia nut chunk, and this is basically also how you make the nut butters. So I need to add a few more dates to the macadamia nuts I'm putting in. All right, so that's how easy it is. This, once again, was just the macadamia nuts and the dates. Really simple. I like to encourage people to eat as simple as possible, and once you guys taste this, you'll be like, wow, that tastes really good. It's only 2 things, so why make things complex if you don't have to? Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, learning more about the Green Star Elite Juicer and how you can use it. Once again, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.